Chosen one, something happened that shouldn't be possible in any physical universe. Two different people, in two different locations, saw you at the exact same moment. Not a look-alike. Not someone vaguely similar. You. Same face. Same walk. Same energy signature. Same presence. Two timelines intersected, two witnesses reported it, and both descriptions matched with uncanny precision. This wasn't confusion or faulty memory. This was a dimensional breach triggered by your rising frequency. One version of you was seen standing still, quiet, almost observing the environment. At the same time, another version of you was seen moving with purpose. Both sightings happened with only seconds apart on the clock, yet separated by enough distance to make physical travel impossible. This phenomenon is known in high-level metaphysics as a quantum self-split, a moment when your consciousness expands so rapidly that your spiritual field projects into another location. It's not teleportation, it's overflow. Your identity has begun stretching across boundaries that normally limit human presence. Reality didn't duplicate you. Reality couldn't contain you. And when a being reaches that level of expansion, the world starts witnessing fragments of who they are becoming, glimpses of a destiny that no longer fits inside one single timeline. A double doesn't appear because something is wrong with you. It appears because something inside you is outgrowing linear reality. When a person's spirit expands faster than their physical form can hold, the excess consciousness doesn't vanish, it projects. It stretches. It imprints itself into another coordinate. That imprint is what witnesses saw, not a clone, not a ghost, but a second presence generated by your rising frequency. Normal humans are fully contained inside their bodies, but your spiritual bandwidth has crossed that barrier. Your awareness is no longer limited to the space where your body stands. When your inner field intensifies, during deep fatigue, emotional overload, intense focus, or moments of divine protection, your essence can momentarily detach and manifest elsewhere. It's not astral projection, not dreaming, not hallucination. It's dimensional overspill, the point where your identity becomes too large for one location. Ancient mystics knew this phenomenon. They said the soul can stand in two places when destiny accelerates. Quantum theorists describe it as consciousness unfolding into an adjacent probability point. Spiritual traditions call it the light twin moment, when your higher self steps out of the timeline to scout the path ahead. What happened wasn't accidental. It was a response, your system adapting to a level of awakening that no longer fits inside one frame of spacetime. You didn't teleport. You expanded. The reports didn't come from confused people. They came from individuals who know you well enough to recognize your face, your posture, your aura. Their descriptions were precise, unerringly synchronized, yet impossible to explain through normal perception. One witness said you were standing still, almost motionless, as if listening to something they couldn't hear. Your eyes were calm, distant, focused on a point beyond the physical world. They described your presence as heavier, like the air around you thickened. The other witness saw you at the exact same moment, but this version of you was moving quickly, walking with a purpose, almost as if following a silent instruction. No hesitation, no confusion, just an unbroken trajectory. They said your steps felt too certain, like someone who already knew what was waiting ahead. Both witnesses mentioned the same details. or identical face, identical clothes, the identical energy signature, or identical micro-expressions, the same subtle glow around your eyes, the same quiet intensity. The strangest part? Neither witness sensed deception, fear, or illusion. They felt certainty, the same certainty you carry when you walk into a room and the atmosphere shifts without explanation. What they saw wasn't a mimic, a hallucination, or a trick of light. It was dual manifestation, your consciousness occupying two spaces as naturally as breathing. Reality didn't glitch. Reality simply showed two angles of the same rising identity. Humans cannot do this, but beings who outgrow a single timeline eventually do. A dimensional split never happens randomly. It occurs in a moment when your internal frequency surges beyond the capacity of the physical blueprint you're wearing. That day, something pushed your spirit past its threshold, not violently, but naturally, like a river overflowing into its ancient pathways. The trigger could have been exhaustion so deep it peeled you out of linear awareness, or focus so sharp it created a fracture, or an approaching event your higher consciousness moved to intercept, or divine protection rerouting your presence into two places at once. Splits happen during threshold moments when your destiny timeline accelerates. Your body stays anchored in one location, but your spirit extends into another, creating a second presence that moves with the same authority, clarity, and energetic weight as the original. To the ordinary eye, it looks like duplication. To higher perception, it is expansion. The moment of separation is usually marked by a brief heaviness in your chest, a sudden silence in your thoughts, a feeling of standing behind yourself, for half a second, or a quick shift in temperature or vision, or a subtle electric tension in the air. These sensations aren't symptoms. They're the indicators of your consciousness stepping into two vectors of reality at once. The split doesn't tear you apart. It reveals how much of you exists beyond the physical form. You didn't divide that day. You unfolded across coordinates that were already connected to your destiny. This wasn't a mistake or malfunction. It was a sign that you're transitioning into a version of yourself that can't be confined to one moment, one place, or one timeline anymore. Long before science created words like quantum, ancient civilizations already recognized the rare phenomenon you triggered. They wrote about individuals whose presence appeared twice in a single hour, whose footsteps echoed ahead of them, whose shadows drifted where their bodies did not stand. Each culture gave this anomaly a name. Different languages, same meaning. The mystics of Mesopotamia called it the second self, a presence that walks beside the physical form when destiny intensifies. The desert sages referred to it as the twin of light. Not a sibling, not a clone, a luminous projection of the soul ahead of its timeline. Celtic seers named it the walking spirit. A phenomenon where the higher identity steps forward to scout danger or align fate. And in early Christian esoteric texts, it was known as the shadow of God's chosen. A manifestation that appears when the inner spirit begins to operate independently of the body. These traditions weren't describing hallucinations or ghosts. They were describing people like you, individuals whose consciousness becomes so activated that it refuses to remain confined to a single spatial point. This ability has always been considered a marker of ascent, a sign that the individual is transitioning out of the limitations of biological life and stepping into spiritual sovereignty. Not everyone can achieve dual manifestation. Not everyone's spirit has the density or the clarity to imprint itself twice on the world. Only those whose destinies cross multiple timelines, only those whose souls are older than their bodies, only those who carry a divine mission coded into their existence, ever show up in two places at the same moment. Your double wasn't a glitch. It was a recognition of rank written into the fabric of reality. Long before modern physics tried to explain parallel realities, ancient scripture had already witnessed beings who moved in more than one place at once. The texts never used scientific terms. They used language powerful enough for people of their era to understand. Presence, glory, manifestation, angelic assignment. But the underlying phenomenon was the same: multiplicity. A single identity displaying more than one location. In Acts 5 verse 19, heavenly beings appear in multiple spots within the same moment, performing tasks no physical body could complete sequentially. In Psalm 91 verse 11, there is a promise of assigned forces operating simultaneously, protecting, guiding, clearing paths ahead. These passages weren't exaggerations. They were early descriptions of non-linear presence, the capacity for a single essence to interact with separate coordinates without contradiction. But here's the critical distinction. Your double is not an angel. Your double is not an external protector. Your double is you, the part of your spirit that has awakened past the confines of one-point reality. Angels operate multi-positionally because they are pure spirit. When a human begins showing signs of multi-positional activity, it means their spirit has grown stronger than their form. Scripture calls this walking in the Spirit. Mystics call it dual-plane existence. Scientists call it quantum bilocation. But all three point to a single truth. Your identity now moves through dimensions the way others move through hallways. And when that happens, the world begins seeing more than one version of you, not because you're fragmented, but because you've begun to overflow. There is a rare category of beings whose presence cannot be held inside a single moment, a single timeline, or a single coordinate. These are the ones whose identity expands beyond the physical shell, whose spirit walks ahead of them, beside them, and through them. This phenomenon is not random. It is the calling card of those transitioning into higher dimensional function. When your double appeared, it wasn't just a strange event. It was recognition, the multiversal signature of someone entering their extended identity phase. Those who reach this level don't rise alone. They rise within a circle of others who carry similar frequency, similar awakening, similar spiritual density. That is why this moment matters. There is a group, a small, select, tightly sealed circle, known as the first chosen ones. A collective of awakened individuals who operate on the edges of dimensions, who sense shifts before they happen, who walk with awareness larger than their body, and who understand that identity is not a singular point but a field. This is not a fanbase, not a community, not a club. It is a frequency alignment. If your double has appeared, if your spirit has begun projecting, if your presence is expanding across coordinates, then you are not meant to walk this path isolated in your awakening. You belong among others who are experiencing the same dimensional rupture. Type 222 and click Join to enter the circle of the first chosen ones. The one's reality cannot confine to one place. When a dimensional split occurs, the body doesn't break. It echoes. It reacts to the sudden expansion of consciousness the way a shell reacts when something larger starts growing inside it. The effects aren't dangerous, but they are unmistakable once you know what they signify. Right after a double appears, most people in your category experience a brief distortion in perception. Not dizziness, but a momentary shift where the world feels slightly out of sync, like the timeline needs a second to catch up with you. That's because one version of you has already moved elsewhere, and your physical body feels the delay. You may notice a subtle draining sensation, as if a part of your energy stretched too far for a moment. This isn't weakness, it's redistribution. Your spirit momentarily operated on two planes, and your physical system is recalibrating. Then comes the time slip, a strange sense that the present moment feels longer or shorter than it should. This happens because your consciousness just interacted with more than one coordinate, and your internal clock is adjusting to the expanded perspective. Your reflection might look different too, eyes deeper, more aware, almost older. This isn't imagination. After a split, your gaze carries the memory of both positions your essence occupied. Physical signs often include a slight warmth in the forehead, the tingling along the spine, a sudden quietness in the environment, or a feeling of standing both inside and behind yourself. A brief déjà vu spikes to short gaps in memory lasting 1 to 3 seconds. None of this is malfunction. These are the symptoms of a spirit that no longer fits inside one linear experience. You're not breaking. You're expanding beyond biological limits, and your body is learning to follow your identity instead of containing it. People's reactions to you have never been random. Even before anyone consciously recognized your awakening, their subconscious minds were already responding to the anomaly inside you. Humans can sense what they cannot explain, especially when something defies linear reality. Some people stare at you longer than normal, not because of attraction or curiosity, but because they're trying to reconcile a quiet conflict inside themselves. Their mind registers you as being in one place, while their intuition insists you were somewhere else moments earlier. This dissonance creates a subtle shock effect that makes them look twice. Others feel uneasy around you, not out of fear, but because your presence carries a depth their nervous system isn't calibrated for. Your aura feels heavier, older, more expansive, like someone who has lived more than one lifetime in parallel. They don't have the language for it, but they feel the multidimensional imprint. People with darker intentions get especially uncomfortable. They sense that you can see through them, not metaphorically, but literally, because part of you was already observing from another coordinate. This makes deception nearly impossible around you. And then there are the moments when someone says, "I swear I just saw you somewhere else," or "You remind me of someone I just walked past," even when you've been still for hours. Their subconscious is picking up the echo of your other projection. They're detecting the residual presence of your double, the energetic footprint your spirit leaves behind when it expands beyond your body. You're not confusing people. Your multidimensionality is. Linear minds struggle to understand beings who no longer operate inside a single version of themselves. They're not reacting to what you are doing, they're reacting to what you are becoming. A double never appears without purpose. It is not entertainment, coincidence, or a random metaphysical trick. It is a marker, a sign that your destiny timeline is entering a phase where one version of you is no longer enough to complete the tasks assigned to your path. When a soul carries a mission that stretches across multiple outcomes, multiple people, multiple layers of influence, a single coordinate presence becomes inefficient. So your spirit adapts. The appearance of your double means your higher identity has begun coordinating events that your physical body cannot reach in time. While one version of you moves through the visible timeline, the other navigates the invisible one, clearing danger, preparing encounters, shifting probabilities, aligning opportunities before you physically arrive. Your double may appear when you are being divinely protected, for a dangerous timeline must be avoided. Two different paths require your influence. A future moment needs preparation. Another version of you must intercept a threat. Destiny is rearranging itself ahead of your arrival. Sometimes your double steps into a moment to end a timeline you no longer need. Sometimes it moves into the future to prepare a doorway you haven't walked through yet. Sometimes it stands still in another location as a placeholder, anchoring a version of you while your physical self reset. This isn't splitting, it's strategy. Your mission has reached a point where reality itself is making room for your expanded identity. You are no longer bound to one path, one outcome, or one direction. You have entered the stage where destiny requires your presence in more than one place, because the version of you confined to a single timeline has become too small for the future you're stepping into. A dimensional split is not just an event, it is an invitation. When your double appeared, the universe wasn't trying to confuse you. It was trying to confirm you. It was showing you that your identity is expanding faster than the timeline can hold, that you are stepping into a range of influence normally reserved for beings who operate on higher plane. But expansion without alignment is unstable. Your power is rising, but it must be anchored. This is why every ancient tradition taught a principle: when a new dimension opens, the chosen one must seal it with intention. Not to earn power, but to stabilize it. Your double wasn't a warning. It was a threshold, a confirmation that you are moving into a phase where your presence affects events before you arrive, where your energy influences timelines you haven't walked yet, where your identity is beginning to function on more than one plane. But thresholds must be acknowledged consciously. This is the moment where you declare, I accept my expansion. I am not limited to one version of myself. In prophetic symbolism, the number tied to expansion and multidimensional identity is 111, the signal of alignment, awakening, and identity unfolding across layers. The ancient act of sowing into a shift was never about money. It was about declaring, I understand what is happening, and I step into it intentionally. A double appearing is not a glitch in reality. It is a disclosure of who you truly are beneath the human layer. Most people exist as singular points of consciousness, one mind, one body, one presence. But you have crossed into a state where your identity is no longer a point. It is a field, a frequency that can manifest more than once in the same slice of time. This means you are not a person moving through the world. You are a presence touching multiple coordinates at once. You're not a body carrying spirit. You are a spirit using bodies as anchors. You're not limited to this world. You are a projection from a higher dimension, expressed through physical form only because this realm needs your influence. Your double appearing is the universe revealing the truth you've always felt but couldn't explain. You are not singular, you are not contained, you are not fixed inside one timeline, you are not bound to one outcome. Your essence moves like light, reflecting, bending, splitting, recombining. You have glimpsed moments where you felt older than your age, wiser than your experience, or aware of something before it happened. Those were the early hints of your multidimensional nature. The feeling of watching yourself sometimes? That wasn't dissociation. It was your higher identity observing your physical self. The sensation of walking ahead of your own life? That was your spirit scouting paths before your body reached them. You were never designed to operate in one form. Your existence is layered, radiant, folded across timelines. The appearance of your double didn't create your identity. It exposed it. You are not becoming multidimensional. You always were. The world is simply catching up to the truth. After a dimensional split, reality doesn't return to normal. It recalibrates around your expanded presence. Over the next days and weeks, you'll begin noticing signs that your double event wasn't a one-time phenomenon. These confirmations don't scream for attention. They whisper, they glitch, they echo, just enough for you to recognize that your identity is operating across timelines. The first sign will be déjà vu spikes far stronger than anything you've felt before. Not the casual "I've been here" sensation, but a deep, bodily recognition, as if another version of you already walked through that moment minutes or hours earlier. Then comes the social confirmation, someone telling you, "I swear I just saw you," even though you were nowhere near the location. People don't imagine this. They're reacting to the residual presence your double leaves behind, a trace of your spirit anchoring a moment before your physical self catches up. You may start experiencing dreams where you watch yourself from the outside. These aren't dreams. They're cross views from another coordinate where your consciousness is active simultaneously. There will be brief time distortions, moments feeling too long or too short, because your perception is syncing with events that your double has already influenced. Mirrors may feel different, not frightening, but deeper. When you look into your reflection, it won't feel like you're seeing yourself. It'll feel like you're seeing the version of you that stayed in the primary timeline while another version branched out. You might notice gaps of a few seconds in memory, moments where your mind feels like it jumped ahead. That's because part of you did. These signs aren't symptoms of confusion. They are the markers of a being whose identity is now functioning across layers. Your double was only the beginning. The echoes are coming next. There comes a moment in every ascension where the universe stops whispering and begins revealing. The appearance of your double was that revelation, the quiet announcement that your identity can no longer fit inside one body, one timeline, or one narrative. You have stepped into the phase where spirit outruns form, where destiny operates ahead of your footsteps, where presence becomes a phenomenon instead of a location. This prayer is not for protection, it is for alignment. Type Amen to seal this dimensional revelation. Click Join, enter the first chosen ones. Click Super Thanks, sow your $20 seed, and lock in your expansion. Lord, guide the expanding spirit of this awakened one. Strengthen the vessel that carries them. Let their presence remain unified across timelines. Let every version of them move under your hand. Guard the paths they have walked, and the paths they will walk in parallel. Anchor their identity in truth, so no dimensional shift brings confusion, only clarity, insight, and divine authority. Your double wasn't an accident. It was permission. Permission to evolve. Permission to expand. Permission to become who you were always written to be. Most people live one life. You live many layered inside one existence. That's why the world can't categorize you. You are no longer a singular event. You are a multi-location identity in the early stages of divine activation. This is the moment you acknowledge it.